All right, so we'll talk for a little bit. We'll give Edgar about 15 minutes, 7 to 7:15, okay? And we'll just talk about, we'll have a good flowing conversation, okay? Let's wing it. I'm gonna go live. Oh, there's Edgar. Hey.
We can't see you.
Edgar, we can't see you.
Or hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. We need to see your face, though.
Let's see here. Can you see me? I think you should see me.
Not yet. We can't see Amanda and we can't see you. But you know what? That's perfectly fine. We can carry on a conversation. People, at least as long as people are able to hear what needs to be said, I think we'll be fine. So, Edgar, thank you again for chiming in today or tonight for this quick video. We normally go live on Wednesday, every other Wednesdays at 7 p.m. But the reason we wanted to go live today is because of the news you had shared with us about the market volatility, and we wanted you to speak a little bit more about that in regards to the interest rates.
And Edgar, whenever you can get your camera on is fine, but you can go ahead and start talking. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us, ATX Homegirls YouTube series. We're so excited to have you join us. We know it's last minute, so thanks again.
Yeah.
But I got a text message today from my lender, and I said, what the heck's going on? I tend to get nervous when I get these text messages from him, so he explained a few things to me, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to go live and just share the information to see if it would affect any of you guys. Exactly. Can you go ahead and chime in, Edgar? You're having camera difficulties?
I think camera should be on, right?
We can't see you.
Really?
And that's perfectly fine. If we can't see you, Edgar, then you can just go ahead and start chiming in.
Let's see here. Weird.
Or we can mess around with it for a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, give me... It says, I mean, I can see it.
Is your camera on, though?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Okay. For those of you guys joining us for the first time, thank you so much. Like Liza said, we normally go live every other Wednesday, bringing you topics about the Austin real estate market and everything that entails real estate,
yes.
Austin, the greater Austin area, Central Texas, anything that is real estate related that could affect you, whether you're buying, selling, or investing. And there will be, fun topics as well. We won't always be so serious, but we promise that we'll try to be lighthearted and fun and informative.
Yes.
And right?
Yes, for sure.
Sometimes a little silly.
Yes.
Sometimes you'll hear dogs in the background, babies crying. But it's all good because we're just normal people.
Exactly. We're just trying to bring you valuable information, despite what we have going on in our lives as well. We just think it's important for you guys to be informed about any changes that have happened, and it could or it may or may not affect you. So, Edgar, you think you're good to go, or we still can't see you, but and I don't know. I'm trying to see.
Can you see me?
No, I can't see you either, Amanda. And it might be the beta. Should I try going off of beta mode, Melissa? Do you think is that a good idea? All right, let me do that real quick.
I'm off of beta. Yay!
All right. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Let me do real quick. Oops, I didn't mean to do together mode. So you guys will see that I have technical difficulties right now, but I would do the large grid, and
Amanda,
I think
you look so pretty.
Cool. We see each other now. Okay, awesome.
Look how beautiful Amanda looks.
Amanda, you look beautiful.
Where are you, Amanda? Can you tell the
I'm at Melissa's Airbnb, guys.
Oh my gosh,
ready,
that is awesome.
Beautiful beach house.
That is awesome. I'm so glad you're having fun right now.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, Edgar, tell the crowd. Tell us what you know. I mean, you're not a magician, but I think it's worthy of a quick live tonight.
Sure. Today was a kind of a bloodbath in the market. Obviously, tomorrow could be different. But in the past month and a half, it's kind of been the same old story. So today, usually it's not a big deal, but the inflation results were coming out, and they came back a little bit hotter than they expected. If I remember correctly, and I got to look this up, I think it was at 7.5%.
Okay.
And so versus what they actually it was 7.7, and they expected a 7.5. Normally, it's not a big deal, right? But now with the Fed talking today as well, they were a little bit hawkish, and they're talking about increasing the prime rates in March to not 2, but increasing it by 0.5%.
Oh my.
And
okay.
so the bigger thing is in July increasing it by a total of 1%, which is a lot faster than anyone expected. So it's been a big, fast reaction of, we think, right? Obviously, there's millions and thousands of traders and all that.
Right.
But we think that's the biggest thing affecting why people or investors are backing off from mortgage-backed securities and, selling them. And because, inflation is bad news for bonds, right? And mortgage-backed securities. And so everyone thinks, okay, well, Fed is raising the rates. Hopefully that'll calm down inflation. But is that really going to work? Well, potentially it could, but any results you will see or potentially see are months down the line.
Okay.
Right? It wouldn't happen right away, even when the Fed increases the rates. It would be months down the line. The bigger issues are, rates are depending on, a lot of things, because I can't really get into details on rates. But for the most part, pretty much everyone is in the 4% or higher range now.
Okay.
Right? Which, historically, if you still think about it, it's still pretty darn low.
Right.
Right. But the rate that they're climbing is unexpected versus what a lot of people are thinking.
Right.
Right. Because I still get people that say, well, I got a quote from 2.99, 2 days ago. And I'm telling them, are you sure that's from 2 days ago and not from a month ago? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, I talked to them about a month ago, but I haven't really updated them or anything. So it's one of those things where, borrowers potentially aren't aware that the market is, increasing that quickly.
Can I chime in really quick? Backing up to mortgage-backed securities, for those that may not understand what that means in the big scheme of things, can you kind of give a short definition or explanation on that?
So it's what investors buy. So think of it as whenever investors buying a mortgage-backed security, they're buying a small piece of but a small piece of, let's say, your loan, right? They don't buy the whole loan, they buy a little piece of the loan, right? And we can get really complicated, and I don't want to get into the complicated part of it. Yeah. But all of that is that you're buying a little piece of it, and they're getting a return of, whatever percentage they're going to get on that loan that you have, right? And so the mortgage-backed securities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the ones who own pretty much the vast majority of the market out there, right? Fannie and Freddie. And so mortgage-backed securities, to make it, I guess, as simple as I can, affect the rate that you see, right? That you're paying, right? So as the prices go lower and more investors sell the mortgage-backed securities, the rates go higher and higher and higher, right? And so there's certain coupons that get sold and bought every single day, right? So you've got like the 2 coupon, the 2.5, the 3, the 3.5, and those are historically what we've been looking at. And so as investors sell more of their mortgage-backed securities or their holdings or whatever, we go below a certain point where those coupons are no longer in terms of gauging the rate that's really out there.
Right. So,
November, we're at the 2.5 coupon, right? The 2.5 coupon, those rates are usually from 2.875, 2.75 to maybe 3%, and then 3 and then 3.5, so on and so forth. So right now we've pretty much officially crossed the line over to 3 and parts of 3.5 now for mortgage-backed securities. Hopefully that's kind of a 101 on mortgage-backed securities. I could get a little bit deeper, but I kind of don't want to, because I could
Right.
be here.
No,
Yeah.
definitely, especially with our audience. I think if we could keep it simple on that end, so they can kind of understand a little bit of background on how the interest rates change and what it affects it. So, Edgar, do you think largely a lot of this happening right now is largely due to inflation and cost of living? Is there any correlation there?
So the interest rates are not, we don't believe are correlated with inflation just yet, right? Because obviously high inflation does affect bonds and mortgage-backed securities,
Right.
but not directly, right? So I think the bigger thing is not necessarily, or the big issue of rates going up. I think the bigger issue is now becomes the average borrower potentially has a much more difficult time qualifying for homes.
Right.
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 Because you've got a combination of rates going up, you got a combination of house prices going up continuously, and you've got everything else going up as well, right? Like you said, inflation and
Right.
the cost of goods, all that stuff, the supply line constraints, and you kind of running into this potential potential
Spit it out.
issue of people not affording to, or not being able to afford, whatever they're looking at
Or
anymore.
being priced out, right? Because it's not what they could have afforded maybe a couple months ago, or a few months ago. It's now looking like, if they were right at the cusp, right? It's now looking that they may need to look at a different area, or pretty much area. Now it's what it's come down to, or come up with a different arrangement on how they can make it work. Bigger down payment, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and, with that too. I mean, I think the bigger issue is nobody can find a house.
Yeah, with low.
You can
Yeah,
find the house,
exactly.
you win the house, right? And you see you've got the inflation, and then you've got gas prices going up. So that's obviously hitting people's bottom line.
Right.
You've got commodity prices going up. You've got energy costs going up, and the average American, the income, the wages that they're earning, maybe 3.5%, 4.5%.
So the wages aren't going up fast enough either. So that's
Increasing
probably
fast enough.
a bigger deal too.
Yeah, sorry, dogs back there.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. We all have stuff going on, and I know this was last minute, but as we mentioned earlier, I think this is important for folks to know how this could affect them if they're in the middle or thinking of buying a home.
And also, back to what you were saying, Liza, and kind of what Edgar's diving into, and I know it for some of the audience, it might be a little deep in diving in, but I guess what the takeaway is going to be is that consider all the things that are happening around you whenever you're thinking on waiting to purchase a home. Because of the gas prices going up, because of inflation, because of everything becoming more expensive, if you know you're at a stable job and you've got great credit, a year from now, that may not be good enough, 2 years from now, for the area that you seek potentially to purchase in. So maybe, and I know Keena's not here with us, but she always talked about her conversations with her buyers are about flexibility. So if you are in a job and you're hoping to get a raise to make more money, I don't want home ownership to be out of sight, but just consider you might need to get a job that pays more.
Right.
If you're going to wait to purchase a home, you might be getting a second job. Some things may have to change. You may have to pay down some things on your debt, because all of those things, when the lenders are looking at your qualification, they look at cost of living, right, Edgar? They look at your debt to income ratio. And if the numbers are really tight and interest rates are increasing and you're maybe not getting paid as much as you want to afford the house that you want, and then all of a sudden you're in Austin, maybe not all of a sudden, but you're in Austin and the median home price, we discussed that on our first series, is increasing. So you don't want to price yourself out.
What is the
Exactly.
median home price now in Austin? Is
Yeah.
it something 460?
No, in Austin, are you talking about the median price range?
Yeah.
It's 555 from I believe wasn't that December's numbers? January's numbers haven't come out yet because we're still in
They'll
it's still
probably be
early
out,
February, but they should be out soon.
Yeah, pretty soon.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, not to pressure anyone, right, to
Right.
buy a home, right? Never ever want to do that. I mean, I think it's mostly figuring out what your long-term plan is in terms of, if you're under lease, right? Next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. What are you looking at? And we could potentially sit down and talk about what rates could potentially be, right? Because I've had a couple of borrowers who qualified last year around August, July, and right now we're getting them ready to move into their new home, and they no longer qualify
Oof.
as of
that's tough.
today. And so, and it's going to get even worse because they're not closing until potentially April, right? And if rates keep going up, they're really backing out, and now they're trying to scramble around and pay down stuff.
Exactly. And another to chime in on that, Edgar, what I'm also seeing is some buyers, they don't understand right now, alternatively, right? Interest rates are going up and they could alternatively go down. So they're under the impression that it's probably best to have a floating rate while they're under contract. But I think with how it's going right now, wouldn't it be a safe bet to lock in the rates for those buyers that are under contract right now?
So I've always been of the opinion I always ask my clients, what is your appetite for risk?
Right.
Right. And so, are you a risky person where you kind of gamble and you're like, all right, whatever goes, goes?
Yeah.
Or are you the kind of person that, counts every penny and you want to be absolutely certain that this is going to happen and I can't do anything else if that doesn't happen? That all depends on what I kind of advise my clients.
Right.
I think right now, typically I'm telling my clients, hey, it's your decision. This is what the market's doing. This is what we think it might be doing. I think for you right now, the candle is burning a lot hotter towards, locking in your rate instead of kind of risking it and floating in, see if the market, comes back down.
Right.
Which we don't. I mean, again, if I knew the future, I wouldn't be here. I mean,
right. Nobody and here, that's another thing. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
All we can do is analyze all these factors that are coming in, these indicators, and maybe think, well, because of this, more than likely this might happen. But then again, it could not. But seeing how everything is going, I mean, it does seem like it's trending towards increasing rates at a faster rate. Again, like you mentioned earlier, the interest rates are still low. They're not horrible interest rates, but the problem is they're increasing at a faster rate this year, and the prices of homes are a lot more expensive and continuing to increase. I'm still seeing in the market multiple offer situations where the price you see for sell, right, the tag you see for sell on there is not really what it could go for. It could go for a lot, substantially more, right? So and we won't know that, right? A lot of the buyers that are financing, they're not closing until anywhere between 21 to 45 days later. So that price tag on what they paid, we won't know that until roughly a month later. And people a lot of people are going to be in for a rude awakening on what's happening and what it actually takes to purchase a home. It's kind of tough out there for a lot of buyers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we're officially at the highest rate since I can't remember the exact month, but it's the highest since 2019.
Yeah.
Like you said, historically, it's still pretty low. I think most people that I've talked to are reacting much more negatively because I think, for the most part, most of us have been kind of spoiled by the rates as low as they've been for the past decade, honestly.
Right.
And so if we ever start going back up into the, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, I mean, and if house prices don't stabilize, I mean, that's going to be a lot of pain for the average working class, borrower.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I have a realtor friend of mine.
And are you guys doing anything just for the audience? I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry, what was
Just
that?
for the audience, are you guys doing anything to
Can we hear her?
I think we lost her,
Oh,
maybe.
Amanda, I think we lost you. The audio cut out for a little bit. We didn't hear your question.
Are you guys doing anything to help, fasten it from 21 to 45 days to help with that interest rate?
Do you mean closing faster, or I'm not sure exactly how?
Yeah, that's what she's asking.
Okay.
Yes. Are you guys doing anything to close? Sorry, my daughter's here. Are you guys doing anything to help close faster to eliminate, losing that lockdown interest rate?
Well, you don't lose anything once you lock it, right? For the most part, you have choices in terms of how long you can lock it. You can do 20-day locks, 30-day locks, 45, 60, 90. The longer the lock is, the more expensive it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So indirectly, what you're asking is, can we lock for a shorter amount of time and be able to close our clients? Well, the biggest determining factor right now is not even up to us. As Liza and Melissa probably know, the biggest determining factor are appraisers. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, right now, I could literally get your file, put it into process, and get you into underwriting within a week and get you approved, right? Not clear to close,
right?
But we could get you approved.
Credit approved,
and
yeah.
the thing we would have to wait for is the appraiser. And appraisers, I can't speak for Liza and Melissa, but for the most part, for us, are running anywhere between 14 to 22 days.
Right.
Yeah, and you can pay, and I mean, this is the famous last words, right? An expedite appraisal, and you've got a borrower spending like close to $1,000 just to hurry up and get that appraiser on top of the list. And I'll be honest, even you can pay that money, and sometimes it's still, they're still going to lag. They may pick up the appraisal and they may promise a certain day to perform it, and then when you need it back, it's not necessarily back in time. So we've run into those issues, and it's just, it can be a nightmare. But I like that question, Amanda, because, especially for the low risk, or for the buyers that are wanting the low risk or really needing to close quick, to be able to afford their house.
Yeah, and 20-day locks for now could potentially work. We can maybe do like a 1 or 2 day extension, depending on how fast the appraisal comes back. But again, even if you order, like Melissa said, if you order an appraisal on a rush, we just had one not even a month ago, and they paid $1,600.
Yeah, I believe it.
Gosh.
I believe it.
And it was still a 11-day turnaround time. So
Yeah.
$1,600, but they didn't have a choice because the seller was also contingent a sale. So meaning that the seller had to sell their house to buy their house.
Right.
So they were in a tough position. So $1,600 had you told me 2 years ago. Or even a year
Insane,
ago.
right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That would have been like, are you out of your mind? But that became the norm last year.
I'm in the wrong business.
Right? Like 1,000. I was already used to 1,000, 1,100, 1,200. I was used to that because that's what's needed to happen, because we're all on a timeline. You know what I mean? I don't think people understand that there's contingencies upon contingencies upon contingencies, right? We have the
It's like
rate
a
lock.
domino effect.
Right, yeah. It's a
Everything.
domino effect. If things don't work out and the timelines aren't met, it could potentially affect and potentially kill the deal,
It could kill several deals.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think answering, Amanda's question, I think the biggest determining factor is going to be appraisers.
Right.
Because for us right now, not an issue. I mean, in fact, we got one of Liza's clients in today into underwriting in the morning, and they were out in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Congratulations to your client, Liza.
Thank you. She's very happy. It was a struggle with a lot of offers that we had to submit, but we finally got her a house, and she's very happy. So, and she's aware too. She was aware that interest rates could increase. I did warn her about that. Look, by the time we get you under contract, your interest rate could be a little bit higher. And are you okay with this, right? So this is why it's so important that buyers are constantly reminded about this while they're viewing houses, when they're under contract, right? Because you never know, it could change day to day. Just like Edgar mentioned, the market, it changes. We can say today interest rates are going to be 4, but tomorrow it could be 4.25, and it could mean a big difference for that particular buyer.
I think it ended at 4.25.
I know.
Did we end up
That'd be crazy, right?
Is it 4.25 right now? Hey, I have a quick question, Edgar, because I know we're diving into appraisals, but are you still seeing desk appraisals for newer homes?
In terms of like for refinances or purchases?
Purchases.
So purchases, typically they won't allow you to do a desk appraisal in terms of, it's just a computer market value.
Even if it's a new construction, have you seen any exception at all?
Not in new constructions, at least for us. Typically, they want to see at least 20% down before they'll do any kind of exception on a not even an exception. It's whatever the automated system tells us.
Right.
What about a neighborhood that has a lot of sold homes and it is a newer construction home? Like it's not brand new, but maybe a resale that a buyer is purchasing and it's a really hot neighborhood. Have you seen any exceptions for desk appraisals in that situation?
In all honesty, we're not seeing a lot of those on purchase sites. It's just because most people don't put down 20% on a new purchase. Yeah. And we could get into different details of why that's usually not advisable right now to put down 20%.
Yeah.
And, maybe if you're trying to close super fast, put down 20%, but do you want to put 20% down to save a few days or, $1,200 or $1,000, $800, whatever the appraisal is?
Yeah.
That might be the right choice. Refinances, we still see them quite a bit. As long as your whatever you owe versus whatever the house is worth is usually about 90% or less, we see them still quite a bit.
Okay.
And Edgar, I did have a question about the interest rate. So if you can share with the audience what goes into, I don't want people to think that because going interest rates or the market is now dictating, for example, that the interest rates are now at 4%. I don't want the audience or any buyers that are looking to buy to think that that's what they're going to get, because there's other factors that go into, right, determining what interest rate you're actually going to get. Do you mind sharing that with us, what it takes or what you guys analyze to be able to give someone a particular interest rate?
So for the most part, there's a few things that impact your interest rate. Number one is how much money you put down.
Right.
That has an impact. It's not a huge impact on a purchase. It's mostly, I can't really get into details in terms of what the range would be.
Right.
But it does make an impact, but it's not as much as you think. And sometimes when we're running numbers with clients, putting down 20% versus 5% or 10%, the rate might be a little bit lower, but is it worth putting down an extra $40,000, $50,000, $60,000?
Exactly.
The bigger factor is your credit scores. And so that is the biggest determining factor. The higher you can get your credit score, the higher, or just give me the lower your rate is going to be. For the most part, 620 is kind of like the barometer for conventional loans.
Right.
And, for FHA and VA, it's usually about 580 or higher.
Mm-hmm.
But 620 is kind of the bottom point in terms of these are kind of the worst rates you're going to get. And then usually every 20 points you increase your credit score, the better your rate gets, up until about 740.
Right. So,
and if you get into jumbo loans and whatever, that can go all the way to 800.
Right. Okay. So even more than ever, why? And the reason I wanted you to share that is because I want to emphasize how important it is to speak to a lender, right, or to you about getting qualified if they're looking to buy a home. Just because if you just go off of what you see online, interest rates are this is my income. People make these predictions that they already think they can afford X amount of money or X, and there's so many other factors, right, that lenders look into to be able to determine what the budget's going to be and what that potential interest rate is going to be, which could also change, right, at any given moment. So it's not a sure thing. But thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So speaking of interest rates and closing on time or not, or appraisals not coming in, I was thinking of, things that buyers are doing to win offers and what you're seeing on appraisal waivers for buyers right now.
Are you asking me that?
Yeah, I'm wanting to know what you're seeing on your end.
Pretty much in Austin, of course, I do business all across, really the states, but mostly concentrated in Texas. in Austin, it's pretty rare that I see any kind of offer with any of my clients that doesn't include a full appraisal waiver.
Yeah.
And so I occasionally get the partial waiver that maybe wins. And I've maybe seen one or two in the last 5 or 6 months where they had no appraisal waiver and they still won. But for the most part, Austin, that's what you're looking at. Other parts in Texas, it's crazy, but not as crazy. You're not getting as many appraisal waiver requests from the sellers. And so, you know, every market's a little bit different. But I think Austin, man, if you don't have that appraisal waiver, it's going to be tough. And which gets back to the whole point of where do you get this money for most people?
Right.
And so hopefully that, you know, answers that question, Melissa.
Yeah. That's actually a great question, Melissa. I think even more importantly, more than ever, it's important for buyers to know all the information up front. Speaking with the lender, getting pre-approved, knowing if they can waive on that contingency on being credit approved, knowing what they can put up front, what's their max, right? If it doesn't appraise, like preparing for scenarios. It is a lot and it can seem very overwhelming, but once you hash it out and talk over the scenarios of what could happen, then a buyer is better prepared when they actually jump in to view homes and they're prepared to make an offer with solid terms. And also great communication with the lender, with the realtor, with the listing agent. I mean, it's a team effort to make it happen. So,
yeah. And I know we tapped in last week about down payment assistance, but you know, maybe that money can come in handy if they're getting some grant money for their down payment and they saved money, maybe using that cash that they have in hand to win in this market.
Exactly.
You know.
Potentially, yep.
You got to get creative, man.
Yeah, now's the time. Get creative, know your information, and try to win it out there. And don't get discouraged, right? There's, like, for example, I had one of my clients, she got used to the idea of losing, right? Because we were losing on offers, that when she actually won, she couldn't believe it. So, you know, and this is the client that we now have under contract that I'm working with Edgar on. She was like, are you serious? I won. I got so used to losing, but she didn't give up. You know what I mean? She had such a great attitude, and I would just spend time with her, talk to her. We would go over scenarios. We had the information up front. And she was like, all right, then I know my numbers. And she got really good about knowing her numbers, knowing her budget, knowing her max, knowing what not to go over. Because again, you could offer to the highest ever and win it, but it's not really about winning it. It's about winning something that on your terms that you're comfortable with, and remembering that, right? Because it can go crazy if you don't set some bars there.
Yeah, we definitely went over a lot of scenarios, and I think what really helped her was, you know, sitting down and kind of like we talked about last time, you know, not only just hearing it over the phone,
right?
Because again, you know, goes into one ear, not the other. We sat down and kind of, she looked at my computer screen and we talked numbers for over an hour. I think it was, you know, an hour and a half the first time, a couple of hours the second time. And, you know, every question you could ask for, and, you know, she asked it great. I mean, I love it when people ask questions, even if they ask the same question 30 times.
Yeah.
I mean, so what?
Exactly.
They're buying their house.
Yeah. And you're right about that, Edgar. I mean, it's our job to remind the buyer, right? What's going to happen, what they can expect, so they can make decisions, right? Better informed decisions with the information that they have. So yeah, that's great that you did that, because some people are visual. I'm visual, so I need to see the information.
Most people are.
So yeah.
Especially when it comes to the money.
Yes, you need to see what's going on with the money. So.
So I guess as you know, as listing agents as well, because you're both list items, what would you recommend the buyers, since you're also listing agents, to maybe help them win a deal? What can they do
to win a deal?
Yes.
Yeah, let's say I was to buy your house, right?
Okay.
And you knew what the bottom line is for your seller, right? And do we offer to pay for title policy? What's a title policy? Do we offer to not get a warranty, or does that even make a difference?
It does because the seller wants to net as much as possible. Now, I'm not going to say every seller.
Right.
Some sellers just want a solid offer and a good buyer. I had one seller that would not sell to an investor, and they wanted a specific buyer. They wanted someone who could afford the home, was had solid financing terms, and they didn't even need to go that much over. And I was surprised. One year I had a lady that preferred a VA loan. And you always think of VA and they're like, oh, those appraisals take forever. They have so many potential restrictions on, inspection. And her son had passed away. And what was the last war we were in? Army.
It depends on what they classify as a real war, or,
yeah.
Would be.
He died in the line of duty. He passed in the line of duty.
Oh, Melissa, you froze. There you go. I think you're
fire.
back. You're back.
Huh?
You're back. You froze for a little bit.
I'm back? Yeah.
Yes. So he
Sorry.
passed
She
away in
wanted
the
to
line of duty?
She wanted a VA buyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Edgar, so as far as those terms are concerned, yes, if you're a buyer in this market and you don't have a lot of money to work with, from a listing agent perspective, and for most of my sellers, they don't want a buyer asking for a home warranty. They would love it if you paid the title policy. Don't ask for closing costs, because that is very early 2000s. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
This is not the market for that. Unfortunately, we're not in that market.
Right.
If you can, in your financing terms, say that you don't need to get the approval because you're either already fully approved, or in the event that your loan doesn't, see it to the end, you could buy it cash. That's always preferred. But if you are needing the actual loan, which most everybody does, then I would encourage you to try to get fully approved or underwritten before you submit the offer. And if you can't, the amount of days between the time that you contract to the time that you are fully underwritten, the less the better.
Right.
So, and then the terms, like we talked about, full waiver. If you can't do a full waiver, do a partial. Those are the terms that sellers are looking for. And I will say, some sellers really pay attention to how much money they're putting down, and some don't.
Yep.
So I had a buyer actually lose. And by the way, not all cash offers win.
Exactly.
I had a buyer at an offer on a house. Last week we changed our contract twice, and it was cash, and he kept saying, it's cash. Why don't they want to work with me? Well, he wasn't all the way at sales price. He was very close to sales price, but this seller no longer lived in the home, and she didn't care how long it took to close. She was going to wait for the extra money. She was fine to wait. So don't be discouraged if you're thinking, these out-of-town buyers are bringing cash. Put your best foot forward. Take advantage of the programs if you qualify for them, and write that offer clean, like we say. Don't ask for a lot, and give what you can.
Exactly.
It's really, you can just put your best foot forward. And I think somebody said the other day, how do you win in this market? Well, you got to play ball. You got to play ball. You got to come ready.
Yeah. Put some skin in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I tell people all the time when they're ready to buy in this market. I'm like, all right, I'm going to prepare you, what it's going to take. And you're right, Melissa, not all homes, and with the sellers, right, they're not always looking, because the highest is not always the best offer, because they also look at the other terms, and it could be terms that maybe they're not comfortable with. So they go with one. All the seller wants is that it's going to go through all the way to closing, and that it's going to be their net's good as well. So I've had some agents contact me when we've submitted an offer, and to tell me, hey, your offer wasn't selected, but it was really high up there. Let me know if you're interested to be a backup. And my client would be like, no, let's skip it, right? And they'll go on to some other homes, but then that house that we didn't win goes back on the market. Because y'all have to understand that buyers are just like you. They're submitting offers on several homes. So if they win one or the other, or if they win two, they're going to terminate on one and go with the one that they really wanted, which means.
And I don't advise you do that, by the way, but I know that the buyers are doing that. And I will say, sellers really want to see how much risk a buyer is willing to take. And a lot of times those risks are in the terms. So yes, you can write this, which you would think is a great offer because you've got this over list price and full appraisal waiver. Then you get down to the option and you're only willing to give $200 and you need 7 days for an inspection. Well, there's some buyers will waive inspection. I don't advise that, but
I don't advise that
maybe
either.
they'll say 3 days. These are terms that I've written before for a buyer. 3 days, and quite frankly, anything under 500, I don't think that's risky enough for a buyer right now in this market. You got to be willing to lose a little money if you pull out of that offer. You know, you'll know right away how much you want that house based on that option money.
Exactly. And then high earnest money as well. I mean, there's so many terms out there. And I think, Edgar, that's a great question that you asked. I think maybe that's something that we could probably do on our next live, talking about how a buyer, because it's actually a lot more detailed than what we're discussing.
I know, we're just tapping.
Yeah, we're just kind of like just the tip right there. But maybe on our next live, we can discuss more in depth of how a buyer, the many ways that a buyer can win an offer, right? You don't have to exercise all those options, but definitely something to consider if you are actively looking to buy a home. So yeah, that's a great question, Edgar.
Thanks.
Well, I don't know, unless we're discussing anything else, maybe we save all our goodies for next Wednesday. Do you have anything else to add in, Amanda?
No, the guys are waiting downstairs so I can go fishing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Edgar, thank you so much for chiming in at the last minute to have this discussion about interest rates. I think that's important for the audience to know what they can expect, and especially if they're going to be looking to buy soon or know of someone that's going to be buying soon, and they can share that information with them. So thank you again for tuning in with us.
Yeah, my
and
pleasure.
As always, thank you, Edgar. We appreciate you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you for all the information. It's very helpful.
You're welcome. Thank you, Amanda.
And also for the audience, I think we had like 2 or 3 people chime in, and I hope the ones that weren't able to chime in will see the recording. As always, I'm encouraging to keep positive in the market.
Yes.
Maybe our next live will help you navigate on how to write a solid offer. But if you're in a position where you're just like, I'm working on my credit, I'm not ready, I don't know, continue to save your money, continue to pay off your debt. Do not give up. If you're working on your credit score, continue to work on that. Don't give up. The plan may change, but it's the goal is in sight if you're willing to work hard for it.
Exactly. I agree with that. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing that.
Well, we thank you guys for joining in. ATX Homegirls.
I know. And I always
Like,
forget.
subscribe.
Yes, thank you, Amanda.
Thank
Please like and subscribe. So, but this was a quick live that we just wanted to, as news comes in, right? We will do every now and then we'll do random lives. But just to remind you guys, every other Wednesday we do go live at 7 p.m. Our next live is next week. I believe that's on the 16th at 7 p.m. And I think what we're going to do is discuss how to win offers for buyers in this market. So I think that's a good one. That's
Very
a good one,
exciting.
Edgar. Thank you for that.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. That's a wrap. Thank